I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchange something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts, because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt, because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy, because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life, because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you, with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in the box. Society tries to put you in the box, but you can't be in the box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me, because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.
And we are back, and I must say, I have missed y'all. And as you see, before we even get started, we already got a first person tuned in, Miss Barbara H. Smith. Mama B, what's up, young son? I love it. Now, I want to give y'all a little something I want y'all to see, just a little snippet. Now, it's a special young lady's birthday coming up tomorrow, and I wanted to be one of the first people to tell you happy birthday. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, I am talking about Mama Boss, Mama B, Barbara H. Smith. If you don't know, she has amazing content on her YouTube channel. So go over there and subscribe, like, send her all kinds of happy birthday wishes. Again, it's YouTube, Barbara H. Smith, or you can look at it at Speak Coach Train. She's amazing. She'll change your life. And she's giving out birthday shout outs all week long, all month long. So make sure you tune in. Now, with that being said, we already acknowledged that young lady's wonderful life that is being blessed on tomorrow, but it's a gentleman today that is coming on. Not only is he going to tell you how to talk about your life, he's going to tell you how to write about your life, speak about your life, and just get it out there in the world. Because you know what they say, our life is a journey, but it does nothing if you don't leave nothing behind for people to read about your story. Because your story, believe it or not, is not over until the pen leaves the paper. And I told you right now, the pen has not left the paper. You still got more to write. And this young man that I have coming on today is going to give you the inspiration and the tools you need to help you write your life story. Now, I'm not going to hold you up any longer. I'm going to bring them to you so you can get the knowledge that I've already received from him. So the one, the only, I gotta give him to you, Var Kelly.
What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing out there? Everybody
Plus,
seem to be ready to write their life story. Y'all ready?
I think they are, because I only got a little bit of the snippet and I was like, hold up. I don't want any more, because y'all know how we do on this show. Everything's authentic. I want y'all to hear it and learn it with me. Let's do this together. But before we even get started, Var, can you tell the world who is Var Kelly?
Oh boy, Var Kelly, who am I? I'm human. But the reality of it is who I am, it took years to become who I am today. It took prayer, it took the word, it took experiences, it took some pain, it took some listening. And the person that you see before me, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also a chemist. I'm an author. All of those things, they might seem like careers, but when you get down to who I am at my core, being a chemist, being a writer, being educated, all of that required an analytical mindset. And so a part of my DNA, I get it from my mom and dad, is being very analytical, being organized. I mean, if you see my family, it's not that we're all smart, but all of us, we chose a certain aspect of our career, which is based upon how we were raised and how we were taught. And so a part of me is very analytical. I tend to be very organized. But then on the other side of things, it really took God to come to the place where I am today. So, I mean, if that's telling you a little bit about me, hopefully that does justice, because I am, even what you see, I'm still so much more than even what you see and even what you've heard. I'm even more than that, and I don't even know it.
I'm glad you said all of that, because it's a couple things I heard. I heard about the amazing upbringing you had, the nucleus you had, and your support, and then you also said about the pain and the knowledge you've gained. Now, I'm gonna ask you a question, because there's somebody out there that's listening. They're like, "Oh my God, he sounds so well put together." And I say that because when we look at the world we see today, most of the time, especially in the world of social media, we see either the after effects or the byproducts of hard work. Nobody gets to see that in between. So a lot of people feel like, oh man, I'm behind because I'm not there, or I'm not going to ever make it because that person's doing this. So I like to try to understand people and help people understand, like, it's levels, it's obstacles and hurdles. So can you take us back to that beginning, like what your upbringing was like, and what, because you said chemist and author, like what was that upbringing and what led directions to become a chemist, an author, like all of that?
How much time y'all got?
Take us back. Hey, it's your show. We just sitting here learning from you.
I will tell you like this. I wasn't the smartest guy. I'm still not the smartest guy in the classroom. I remember being in elementary school. I was in the low classes. So even though I continued to go up in grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, in reality, I was a part of the lower tier. When it came to grades, I had to work in order to achieve anything and everything. And so by that, I was not smart when it came to spelling, when it came to being able to write, when it came to phonics. My mom can tell you and testify, like, this kid here, I had to work with this kid. It took a lot of time, and I always was at the back end of everything. But as I continued to grow and I continued to not just learn from my parents, but learn from the teachers, trust God, I began to understand more and more. I was still at the back of the class, but there are so many people who were in the top of the class. They're in jail, they're locked up, they're in prison. And so, and I don't say that to bash people, but I say it to say it's a harsh reality. I recall a time, it was some years ago, I was a chemist, I was still working in the lab. And a friend of mine's old elementary school, you know, we're in our 20s, our late 30s. And he asked me, what do you do? And I told him I'm a chemist. He said, oh, you went legal. Exactly. I said, yeah, because in reality, he was not legally doing what a chemist would do, if you will. But needless to say, it's a harsh reality. Even my first book, people do not understand not being able to spell, not being good at writing. I was able to put something together, of course, working with an editor, working with some people. I was able to do it because the reality, I knew there was something inside of me that was greater than my handicaps. And so it became important for me that no, you publish this book and you get it out because there's more to who I am than my insecurities. And so that's something very important for people to understand and know. You might see this, but it took time. It took me to break out of myself. It took me to not rely in my own mentality, but rely in God and just go forward and do and be. I'll stop.
No. I'm not gonna let you stop because you touched on a couple things, and I want people to understand because this is just me. This is my way of how my brain has to break things down. I believe it's two sides to everything. Yeah. So how you said like you weren't the smartest, and then some people be like, if you're not the smartest, the opposite is I might not be the smartest. Smart and dumb, as you say, but I don't call people dumb. I don't call people dumb. I just say that they haven't caught up to themselves yet because we all learn and we all get to points in life at different times. So I don't call people slow or anything. I believe God moves at his own timing. Mm-hmm. So like you said, people were at the top, but now they chose a different path. Some chose this path, some chose this path. In your case, you said a chemist, and the other one said, oh, you did it the legal way. I did it.
Right.
One of the things I used to teach my kids, like about, let's say, drug dealers, like drug dealers, it's not that they're bad people. They just probably didn't have the right people around them to teach them. Because if you want to think logically about it, most of the time, drug dealers, they're the best business mind in the world.
That's right. True.
They have a whole distribution supply chain. They got workers. They most likely are the best. They just had a different path than a regular business person. So I look at it at both sides of things. And so when you said that, I want you to explain to people because you said I wasn't the best writer. I wasn't the best speller because I'm not going to lie. I'm one of those too. My parents is on me. I was one of those kids that had the old encyclopedias, the whole thing, because my mom and dad was intent on me learning. Matter of fact, I might tell my age. I was one of those kids that hooked on phonics works for me.
Wow.
There. But nobody would have told me years later I would have wrote a book or been a speaker because I was like you. So for that young person out there, that adult out there that's listening, what is that hurdle that you were crossing when you said, to become this, I have to do this? Like, what was that thing that you had to do? And what was the support system like?
I had to change habits. Okay. And not only change habits, but I have to always continually be changing habits, continually be learning. I remember when I was training for my first marathon, and training for a marathon, it is not just the physical, but there's a lot of mental buildup that you have to do. And in the midst of me doing the training, I'm like, yo, I'm over this. I'm ready for this to be done. But I said, this marathon is coming up and I don't want to bomb, not because I'm trying to win. I'm nowhere near a Kenyan runner. Let me just tell the truth. I cannot run like them, but I wanted to experience this marathon and have a full experience that I can cherish. And so I'm on the course, I'm running this race, family came out supporting me and all of this. And I'm just doing great. I'm having a good time. Some of my friends were running at the same time and we kind of met up. We walked together. We talked together. All right, you go ahead. Okay, I'm going to leave. I mean, when I tell you that marathon was an experience, but I get to the finish line and I was maybe half a mile out. And my sister and some of my family, they saw me before I entered into the park. Where the finish line is. And she said to me, she's yelling at me because by this time you figure I'm 26, 25 miles in. I'm like, what? Don't call my name. Don't call me nothing. Show me where the bed is. And so she yelled out at me. I looked up at my family. She said, keep going, because she knew my sister at that time. I think she ran at least 2 by that time. So I keep going. I'm walking at this time. Like I said, I wasn't the Kenyan. And so when I crossed the finish line, I ran across the finish line and, I didn't cry. I didn't anything. I just said, oh, God, it's finished. And then it hit me. Oh, my God, it's finished. Wait, I finished. And so a lot of people don't realize what I meant was it was the training. It was the physical toil of that. But there was a mental strength and capacity that training taught me. And running that course, it taught me not just about being able to overcome, push yourself, learn more about yourself, but from that training, I also wrote another book. And in that book, that's where I realized that I'm a finisher. So even though I was the lowest in my school, in my class, I finished high school. Even though not the smartest in college, I finished college. Even though started out as a tech and then eventually became research and development manager, still the lowest person. And I do have to throw this in. I'm not trying to play the race card, but I'm African American in the pharmaceutical industry. You don't find many of us. So I had to compete with that as well too. But what I learned is that I am a finisher. And so, despite my handicaps, despite the issues that I feel about myself, my own insecurities, it didn't matter. I'm a finisher. I got in there and I worked. Even when I woke up, and there were days, I remember a day I was sitting in the car, I was at work, and I sat there for about 15 minutes contemplating, am I really going in today? I do not feel like this. And I've never done that, dude, being the person that I am. But the reality of it is, I think we were still in the midst of COVID too during that time. So it was just already crazy. So I don't feel like it. After that 15-minute break, you want to know what I did? I got out that car and I worked. And I worked until the day was over. And then I went home. Being a finisher, it takes time, it takes persistence. And what I had to learn to do, I know I'm talking a lot. What I had to learn to do is that the same principle I learned when I trained for that marathon, I need to take those same principles, pick out the key points, and drop it into anything and everything that I do. And when I did that, not only was I able to finish just a marathon, I was able to finish a book. I was able to finish another course. I was able to finish cleaning my room. I took principles and I learned from my previous experiences and I applied them everywhere and I just advanced myself. And so that's how I know I'm not finished. Even though you might say, oh, you did this, you did this, you did that. In the back of my mind, it's not that it's worthless, but I know there's still so much more to me. And so you might have handicaps. Those of you listening, you might feel some type of way about yourself. That doesn't matter. If inside of you, you still feel that thing moving, that book moving, that business moving, that means you need to move. You cannot let those handicaps, you can't. If you let your handicaps, and I'm not talking about physical, but your mental capacity, what you think of yourself, if you let that be the leading factor, then you might as well just quit everything. Quit being a father, quit being a wife, quit everything. But if you still feel something in you that you have to do, then that's what you have to hold on to, and you have to break through all of those hurdles every day. I'll stop.
No. So I told you, you keep saying I'm gonna stop, but I'm not gonna let you because it's you brought up two points that I don't want anybody to miss. The first one being you basically laid out habit stacking. For those of you who don't know what that means,
Compounding.
you take a bunch of different habits and you put them together, but first you have to start with one. So what VAR was doing, he didn't just run a marathon to run a marathon. That was a habit stacking. That
Yeah.
took a lot of practice. That took a lot of training. That took a lot of mental fortitude. That's a habit. You have to get up and work out and all that different stuff. It's not that, like you heard him say, it wasn't that he was trying to be faster than the Kenyans. He was habit stacking to make his best self better. It's no different if you go to the gym to work out. That doesn't mean you're trying to be the next bodybuilder. You're building those habits. And that's what I want people to take away from that. Like, you have to do those certain small habits. Like, we hear people all the time, like, if you want to be successful, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, start. That might not be your habit. If your habit is to do stuff at 7 in the morning, I know people that habit stack where theirs is the nighttime. Whatever works for you, but you have to start somewhere and then make the changes along the way, which VAR has done, because he told you about the different handicaps he's had that he had to habit stack on. But the one point that you keep bringing up was finishing. And I want to bring that part to I want to ask you a question on that, because think of a life story. Your story isn't over until it's over, and that's when God called you home and all that. But in the meantime, you have a lot of different wins along the way. I refer to it as there are a lot of small wins inside of the big win. And so Bart has told us different times where he finished something. I went to college and I finished it. I wrote a book, I finished it. The marathon, I finished it. But he finished it to start something else. And there's one thing you said that I don't want to miss. I almost missed it. You said that your family, you had friends, you did this, or on the marathon, and your family at the very end was there.
Yeah.
I want people to understand that your support system always has your back. But in this race of life, there will be times where you're going to be running alone. That doesn't mean your support system left you. That's not their race to run. It's your race. That's your marathon. And God is going to help guide you along the way. And then there are going to be times where a friend might pop in and run a mile with you. There might be a spouse that runs another mile or two with you. And at the end of the finish line, all your support system sitting there ready to cheer you on. But just remember, when you finish that, it's time to start something else. So, Var, I got to ask a question. Throughout your life, as you kept finishing different tasks and conquering so many different hurdles, how would you explain to somebody like you might have finished this, but it's time to start the next thing? Because people get complacent, we get comfortable, and inside of your comfort zone, that's where our dreams die. So you might as well get ready to start the next thing. How do you explain how you got started, and what advice would you give somebody else that maybe finished something to start the next thing?
Well, I'll tell you like this. First off, the book that I'm actually talking about is called The Art of Finishing. And so, exactly. And so what the marathon inspired me, it realized not only am I a finisher, but a lot of people don't know how to finish. And it's a skill. It's something that you have to learn. It's something you have to practice. And so what I had to learn is I remember I graduated high school. And, everybody always said, oh, high school, great experience, you finish and you go to college. And I walked across the aisle. I received my diploma. I had a great school year, great friends, still friends to this day. But the reality, I said, this is it. This is not it for me. So even when I crossed the graduation for college, nope, that's not it. That's not it. Granted, I finished college. I was happy. I was grateful to God. I'm not finished. I did other education as well. I did Christian education. I even went all the way to the doctoral level, finished that as well too. And I'm like, God, I'm not finished. And when I say I'm not finished, it's not the education, but it's about what's inside of me. And so even in my career, when I went from being a tech and I moved all the way into management, I'm like, granted, I had to operate some expensive equipment. I wasn't paying for things, but I'm putting out money. If something break and the CEO come back and ask, well, why did you sign off on this? Like real talk. But the harsh reality of it, in the midst of all of that and what others people may have thought, that's not it. And so what you have to go on is what's inside of you. If you finish something and you still feel movement, you still feel a pulse, you still feel purpose, you need to go and search out what the next thing is. Sometimes you might need to take a little break, take a space, take a beat, and then pray about it, seek God about it, go look at your vision board again, or go and get in a quiet space, find out what it is and start the next thing, taking what you've learned from previous things and applying it again, because what's going to happen in the midst of this new thing, you're going to put on top of that. Talked about compounding, talked about habit building. And so being able to start is really not the issue. I can guarantee you right now, what's today? Today is Thursday. I can guarantee you how many people already have plans for Friday, Saturday. I'm going to clean this. I'm going to do laundry. I'm going to clean all of my clothes. I'm going to clean my whole room. You know what? They start off doing it, but come Sunday night, they are laying on a pile of clean clothes on their bed. Everybody's seen that video. Everybody's seen it. The reality of it is everybody can start. You can start something right now. Can you maintain it enough to get to the finish line?
So no, keep going with that. So what is that middle piece? Because everybody can start something. What are those little nuances or those things that people can do to keep going to finish?
You have to stay motivated. You have to remember your why. When I wake up in the morning, I remember my why. A lot of people, they hear different bits and pieces of things. They watch reels and they're like, oh, that's a good comment. That's a good statement. But oftentimes what people don't realize, it's the compounding effect that is taking place, where you're not just pulling on the starting, being able to start, but you're pulling in that middle section of why am I doing this again? Oh, because I love my kids and I want my kids to have the best. Oftentimes that's the why for a lot of people. But then too, you have to be able to look at your purpose, your gift. What am I supposed to give not only to my children, to my spouse, to my family and friends, but what am I supposed to give from myself to the world? And if it is the kids, if it is a book, if it is a business, if it is a YouTube station, whatever it is, you have to keep going and do it. And so it's a matter of compounding. You finish one thing, you need to be able to pivot. I've seen a lot of business people. Okay, we're going to start a business, popping, everything is jamming. 3 years, they start to see decline. They got to pivot. They got to pivot. What's the new thing? This was it back then. I made a lot of money then. We need to pivot. What type of pivot? You know what? Maybe it's time for new management. Maybe it's just time for a new business. You need to be able to always be looking for what the next thing is. If you feel that pulse, you keep applying habit, you keep compounding those habits and keep building until you get it all out.
So you said two things. First, know your why and using your gifts. For those that don't know, don't worry. I'll put the link in the description because there is a book, Gift Seeker, How to Live in Your Purpose. That'll cover what Var's talking about. And then the part about how do you finish, I'm going to make sure his book is linked as well on how do you finish, because I want y'all to get all this information. But you keep saying something and I don't want people to miss it, because you're saying, how do you finish? How do you finish? Can you give us, and I'm not telling you to read the book, but it's certain, obviously, because I know how this works, because I wrote books too, and I know how that mind works. You have those nuggets in your head. So within that, how do you finish book? Can you give us a couple of nuggets that people can know, like, okay, this is start the journey until I can at least go order Var's book. How do you finish? Can you give us some of those nuggets?
Well, you want me to talk about writing a book or writing that life story book? I can definitely give some tips there.
Let's do both.
Okay. Well, one thing for sure about if you are going to work that middle section, you have to not only pull on your why, but you also have to pull on your habits and consistency. Somebody might say, oh, well, that's easy to say, but it's a matter of you being able to apply pressure to what you're doing. I'll go a little deeper. I remember being a tech. When I was a tech in the pharmaceutical industry, I was working in the lab. I only had an associate's degree. That's a 2-year degree. Okay. And I had reached a level where a boss couldn't give me any more money. He said, listen, you don't have your bachelor's degree. I can't promote you. I can't give you any more money. And respectfully, I was okay with that, because the reality of it is I had an associate's degree. I had maxed out everywhere. And even though I was still learning things a chemist would do, he couldn't give me any more. And I made a decision. I was still living at home. And I said to my mom and dad, I said, listen, I've saved up my money. I know how much school is going to cost. I'm going to quit my job and finish up. I was still working on my bachelor's. I'm going to finish up. I'm going to go full time, quit the job so I can make more money in another year and a half or two. I had mapped everything out. They looked at me and they said, okay. For those 2 years, I lived in the house, didn't have to ask them for anything. I banked my money. I had already banked my money. I knew how much college was going to be. I said each semester, I set everything up, and I proceeded forward. After I graduated, I received my bachelor's, and I went back, ended up going back to the same company. Yeah, we're hiring. They took me back, got the promotion, got more money. Sometimes you have to be willing to break out of your cycle of things in order to get more of what you want. You have to be willing to not just make the sacrifice of working a full-time job, going to school part-time. Sometimes you may have to, and thankfully I was in a good financial space and my parents were willing to allow me to continue to stay. So it kind of just worked out for me. It doesn't necessarily happen like that for everybody. But what you have to understand is that you have to make moves that are going to continue to help you to grow. I took a job that I worked that job. That job was 5 minutes away by car. 5 minutes away by car. I took a job. It was time for another promotion. It was time for a change. I said, I learned, I know everything here. I took a job where it required me to drive 1 hour and 15 minutes away, gas and toll. I took it not because of the money. I took it because there was more. There was opportunity. And you want to know what happened? I took that job, and within a year, I was promoted to a scientist. I had learned so much information. And then I ended up leaving that job after a year and going to another job. That's not the point. But what I'm saying to you, for me, it's been about opportunity, not being an opportunist, but about opportunity. This, I learned from this. This was good. Okay, the money is okay. It's all right. But there's still something in me. And I kept grabbing, not pulling people down, actually raising people up with me. Listen, I'm going to teach you how to do this. This is how you do this. And going different levels until you realize where, okay, I'm at the top and it's still not it. Take everything you applied and you go forward. Now, let's talk about a life story. Let's talk about some of you wanting to write a book. I'm going to keep it brief. The most important thing you can do is work on your outline. You being a writer or being a non-writer makes no difference. It is about your outline, period.
Yeah.
You get the right outline, the writing becomes easy. Many of you've been trying to sit down and get your thoughts in order. The best way to do this, because you need the best outline, you need to get everything out of your head. This is a life story. This is a life experience. So what I'm literally going to do is sit down. I hope everybody's taking notes. I'm literally going to sit down and write all of the experiences I can think of. I'm going to sit down, look at them, look for the recurring theme, look for the recurring principle or that principle that you now live by. Look for that in the experiences. Then you separate out those experiences that match that principle that you want to present. You use that to create your outline. Once you have that, then you go back to each of those experiences and put some bullet points regarding what actually took place, how it led you to that principle, that theme. And after you do that, you pretty much have a solid outline where you can then write. Let's talk about the writing part. You don't have to be a good writer. What I'm doing right now, you can do on the laptop. What am I doing? I'm talking. I can literally pull I don't have a notebook in front of me. I can literally pull that outline out and, okay, chapter 1, which is the first point that you have in your outline, start talking about that. Remembering that you're going to talk about the experience, you're going to talk about how you begin to build that principle or that main idea. You talk about it, talk about lesson learned. Then, next experience, and you go and you do that. I am talking to the computer. You can use the software like Otter, or you can use what else? There's a couple out there. I can't think of the names, but you can use a software like that where it's literally typing it for you. You're talking and it's typing. Now, when it gets into the next part, because now you've made your outline, you have a manuscript now.
Okay.
You're going to need professionals. That's where I come in. That's what my company is all about. We are the professionals. Not only can we help you with the outline, but we also can guide you with the writing. But the professional, you're going to need an editor. You're going to need a book cover designer. You're going to need someone to do the formatting. You're going to need all of the support to make sure that your manuscript, even though you were speaking, you were talking, you're going to need someone who's professional enough that can put everything together. So even when you do your first draft, you think it's trash, no problem. An editor is going to be able to fill in those gaps and help you create the story of your dream. And I hate to say story, but I say it's a story only because we're mapping it, we're piecing it together. But the reality of it is that this is your life here.
Yep.
Imagine you being able to write your life story. Nobody else wrote it for you. Your words, your experiences, you leave that for your children. You leave that for the next generation. That is powerful.
This is.
I'll stop there.
No. So you said something, because I'm all about that too, and it's I want to let everybody know, like, this is me and Var's first time talking about it, but he's not wrong. Every book that I've written, I promise you, it was outline format. I don't know. That's probably what I learned in school. That's what I'm reduplicating, but that's how my mind works. So he's absolutely right. Outline, bullet points underneath each one. It's not as hard as you think. We overthink things.
Yep.
So you have somebody that's writing their life story, but at the same time, there's somebody out there that, well, I don't necessarily want to write my life story, but I have an amazing creative mind and I don't know how to write. Can I use those same principles in making a just generic creative story like Harry Potter? Can I use those?
Yes, you can. It is about building out an outline. One thing you got to understand about the outline, it's almost a little bit, when it comes to a novel, it's a little bit of starting with a brainstorm, because with a brainstorm, you just kind of put it all out there. This is what I want to happen. This is what I want to happen. And then with the outline, you begin to create what that storyline looks like. Okay, this person is going to wake up and all of a sudden they're going to have superpowers. And then the parent is going to realize that the alien power that they received before, now the child is dealing with it. You have to build out that storyline, and it's just a storyline at that point. Once you start actually doing the writing, that's when you're going to have to be a little bit more creative. But you need to have a solid foundation to know where the character is going to go. You might even need to spend a little bit time understanding who that character is. Write about that character, understand who that character is. Are they a little bit of J-Lo plus with a little bit of Jay-Z and a little bit of Beyonce, or is it really a little bit of you, a little bit of your auntie? You need to understand the character, and when you understand the characters, it becomes easier to write. Even when it comes to a novel, let's take some of the TV shows that you might be watching. Some of the characters, the intention is not for all the characters to be the same. The intention is that the character is over here, this type of person, this type of person, this type of person, this type of person. And when you put all of those people together, you get the chaos, you get the drama. And so that's what you need to be able to do. So by knowing the characters, understanding who they are, when you throw them together, then you get, Friday the 13th, something crazy. You get The Walking Dead, Now, granted, some of these concepts in these books, because really The Walking Dead was really based on a comic book anyway. Yes, I was a fan of The Walking Dead. Pray for me. Needless to say, this was just a concept, and somebody took it and they took all of these characters and they put it together. That's what you have to be able to do. Even with a novel, you have to be able to put these characters together. And this was actually the email that I sent out today too. You can't just show it. You have to tell me what it is. So what you literally have to do is, I was excited. I was sad. Okay, that's great. But I was sad too. But use your words. That's the same thing I said in the email. Use your words to describe, because now you have to create the image of what you felt the day that you graduated. I walked across the stage. There were tons of people sitting in the crowd. It was a hot summer day in New York. And if you've ever lived in New York, you know that it is humid as you know what. But needless to say, that day I had on a full suit. You have to create the atmosphere to bring people in to what you felt. And so you have to use your words to describe the sunlight, the temperature, what you felt on the inside, how the people were shouting, you have to be able to describe it all. And that is an art and skill. And even for the person who wants to write a novel, that first draft for you probably will be trash. Yeah, it probably, it's different with a life story. It probably won't be trash, but for a novel, I'm sorry, it's probably going to be trash. But what you have to do is be able to read it, look at it, and take a step back and create the image. I remember when I worked on my first movie script. And actually it was a book first, and then I started working on the script. And I had images of what the people look like. And even after the producer and the editor, they supported and they started putting things in, and I'm like, I like that. But still the character in my head, that's what I saw, and that's what I made sure was on the page. And as they brought in other images, because, a movie script, sometimes you have to have things so dramatic that it translates, And so, they put stuff in, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I see it like that too. And so it's amazing to see the process of how things can develop when you have the right people supporting your vision. So use your words. We try to tell our kids and stuff like that. Use your words. You're whining and you're pouting. Okay, I get it, but use your words. Tell me what you want, and then I'll still tell you no. But that's a separate conversation.
No, I don't want anybody to miss that, because it's like anything. Like you say, use your words. The best way I can break it down for you out there is, we cannot see inside your mind. We don't see your thoughts. We don't understand your thoughts. You have to explain everything that's going on in your head on that piece of paper. Like whatever you're thinking, feeling at that moment, let it all out. And like Var said, I'm just not gonna lie to you. I was right there with you. It's gonna be trash. But I want you to think about it this way. Everything you did the first time, unless you're just an anomaly, the first time you started walking, you fell down.
Yes.
First
Yes.
time you started driving, you was all over the place. First time you cooked the meal without mom and dad there, it probably was horrible. Normally, the first time you do something is not that great. But that's that part that VAR has been talking about all night. You have to start, because when you start, you get the momentum going. But
That's
just
right.
like the marathon that VAR was running, you're going to hit a wall. They call it the wall in the marathon.
Yes, they call it the wall. Yes.
You don't want to keep going. You're going to want to stop. But guess what? The same way we've talked about your gift, your purpose, somebody out there needs what you have to tell. Somebody's
Yes.
story relates to you. Somebody out there is listening to VAR right now. Is like, yeah, you're right. When I was in school, I wasn't the smartest. I couldn't read. I told you I was just like VAR. My mom had me hooked on phonics like everybody else. Everybody doesn't start off at the top or the front of the class.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole thing is to keep going until you finish. Now, with that being said, I do have another question with this. And I have to ask. I have to ask because you've done so much. You've helped with so many people writing books. But one of the things I know it hit me when I was writing, and some people look at it the same way. How long is a book? Like if I'm sitting there and like, because our big thing is I finish. If I get all my thoughts out my head and I finish and I'm looking at the computer screen, because most people type in like Word or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at Word and I'm like, man, my Word only says I've typed 20 pages. Look, how long, how does a person know? Like, I know I'm finished writing, but is it long enough for a book?
This is where you need to have that consultant, that mentor, that editor there to kind of help you. Now, if you are just a person, how did I know I was finished? Let's talk about my first book. I knew I was finished when I reached the end of it. And like you said, all of my thoughts, I had cleared everything. When I say I cleared everything, meaning I was empty on that subject. I didn't have anything else. There was nothing new. And so what I had to then do, I had to kind of step away from the script for a while. Yep. Because the reality, I was so engulfed of getting it all out. Okay, you got it all out now. And during that process, there was nothing new that came. Oh, I need to put this back in. Oh, I forgot to put that. There was nothing. But when I took that break and I went back to the script, I saw what I missed. And then I was able to put it in because there was a gap there. My brain wasn't so focused on trying to remember what I had already done. I was almost reading the book as almost as a new book. And so when I read it, I saw where I needed to connect dots. I saw where I needed to make a complete circle. That first book, I had made a complete circle after I had went through it a couple of times, and I realized, oh, there's a gap here. There's a gap here. And I made that circle. That's when I knew I was finished. Now, this is what I also meet up with people. You can be finished, but you still have more information. You don't have anywhere else to put it. Mm-hmm. That's how you know you have another book or another idea. And so what I had to do, because even though I was finished with that book, in a couple of years, I had all of these thoughts and all these concepts. And I was like, what is that? Matter of fact, after I wrote my first book, I think that next year I did do another book. I did a release just for the family. I did a book release just with my family, and I called it My Family. And I gave that to them for Christmas. I wrote a book and I gave it to them. Eventually, I did publish it for everybody and distribute it. But it's like that particular idea, that thought, it was complete, it was whole, I was finished. But there were other thoughts that were still mingling. That's how I knew, no, there's another book, and there's another book, and there's another book. And there are many books. I remember I just recently wrote a script. I am planning to release by November. Y'all pray for me. I recently wrote a script, and I get into a flow. After you have written, and if you are a non-writer, kind of disregard this, because if you're a non-writer and you're not called to write, that's one thing versus somebody who's called to write. That's two totally different things. So if you're a non-writer that needs to write a book, you write that book. Yeah. But if you are a writer and you have multiple books, for you, this is going to apply. After writing my first book, whenever it was time to write a new book, it became easy to do because I understood my flow. I understood general flow when it came to writing. And when I wrote that script, I literally sat there. I was so tired, but the ideas just kept coming and I had to get it out. I literally sat there and typed, punched it out, checked my cell phone, go back typing. I need to go use the bathroom. Go use the bathroom. Come back. Because it was just flowing and I had to get it out. And once I completed it, I stopped. But when I sent it to the editor looked at it and they said, you need to do this, you need to do this. This is the foundation. You have everything here. And after I had sent it to them and they sent it back to me, I said, oh my God, you're absolutely right. And I even said to them, I said, I'm so glad you said that it feels rushed, because not because I was rushing on purpose, but because the ideas were coming so fast, it was just like A, B, C, D. It didn't have any color to transition A to B, and then we got C, and then eventually we get D. It was A, B, C, D. And so if you're a writer, you kind of get what I'm saying. There's a flow that you have to have. And when the editor said that, I went in and I put that flow in there. I'm still working on some of it too. And it just made now, okay, now the color is there. Now it's all coming together. It takes, it's hard, but it's work. And actually, I kind of love it too, because now it's like I bring you into my mind. You said something earlier about being able to communicate with words. I use that same thing when it comes to listening. I spend more time listening. You want to know why? If I can get into your brain, I can explain what I'm trying to teach you so much better. So I listen to you and I realize, oh, I'm on this side, you're on this side. Okay, you don't want to come over here. Let me come over here. And so now we see face to face. And so now you understand what I'm saying. And the reality, we were both saying the same thing all along, but somebody had to listen. So I listen, I see what your brain is saying. Okay, let me come over here. I might can come a little closer. Once you get close, they come in. Oh, okay, now we good. Now, sometimes when you listen, you come close, and sometimes you still might end up here because difference of opinion, different of conclusion, that's fine. But listening, and when I learned how to listen, now I can communicate. I've been teaching for a long time now. And because I teach, I've taught almost at every age level. And so now I have to be able to communicate to the children the same thing that the adults need to learn, not only just from the children to the adults, but even some of the adults. You have some that have different learning levels, so you have to be able to still capture them. And then you have those who are well educated, even more than me. You have to be able to communicate with them. And that takes practice with listening. Now, my books now, it is for the general public. At the same time, when I'm working with different people, I remember working with a prophet. And when I started reading their script, I had to become a prophet. So I had to pray and ask God, okay, Lord, help me to understand not their words, but help me to listen to what they're trying to tell the people. Okay. And when I did that, I said, oh my goodness, this book is awesome. And so literally I can tell them I'm reading it, even though I'm the editor, I'm reading it. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like I never thought about that. Like, that's hot. And then when I stepped out and I said, oh my goodness, yeah, this book is not for everybody. Somebody asked me, they actually know the author. They said, is this a hard read? I said, if you are a prophet or you have any prophetic gift, in Christianity, I said, no, this is not a hard read. But if you are outside, yeah, it might be a hard read. And that's not a bad thing. When you have a story to tell, it's going to reach a specific audience. So don't feel bad about that. Reach the people that you need to reach. That's the whole purpose of you writing your life story, so you can reach those who need it.
So you said something, and I don't want to miss this moment, because you said about listening and writing your life story and reaching the people you need to reach. So for somebody that's out there that needs VAR to listen to them, to help them reach the people that they need to reach, how would they contact you?
They can contact me. Just go to Coach VAR, Coach VAR, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, R as in Roger, Kelly, KELLY.com, CoachVarKelly.com. Sign up to the email list. Not only that, you'll be able to also watch a video where I share some more tips, and then you can set up an appointment to meet with me. You can do all of that by going to CoachVarKelly, VARKelly.com. Also, you can go to Instagram. You can go to JWI Services, J as in just, W as in write, as I'm going to write a letter. I as in just write it, and services. That's the name of the company that I own for publishing and services and various different things. So yeah.
And if you don't worry, everybody, I will make sure all of that is put in the description on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, subscribed Strategic Dope on YouTube. But I have one more question for you. I ask this of everybody. Somebody that's out there that's looking to get started, trying to tell their life story, or just trying to overcome obstacles in their life, because you taught us and showed us how in writing we got to connect the dots. You told us about your life during school or running the marathon, the different times you had to connect dots to make things happen.
Yeah.
What's that piece of advice, if you can drop a nugget on somebody right now that's listening?
Oh boy.
What's that thing that you would tell them to help them connect the dots in their life?
Find the pattern. All of our lives, they have a pattern. When you understand the pattern of your life, you know what to do, when to do it. Let me describe what I mean by pattern. A recipe,
Okay.
chocolate chip cookies. There's a pattern to making cookies. If you make chocolate chip cookies, if I give you a recipe to make peanut butter cookies, you know about the pattern, even though you're making peanut butter cookies. No problem. I know how to make some killer chocolate chip cookies. Now I'm moving into the peanut butter cookie realm. I can kill that. Let's try sugar cookies. You learn a pattern. Even though sugar cookies, those of you who bake sugar cookies, you actually make a dough, you have to roll it out, you have to cut it out, versus chocolate chip. That is a drop method. You just kind of spoon it and you drop it on the cookie sheet and you make it. But you understand pattern. All of our lives, they have patterns. And when you understand the pattern of your life, you can make sense of where to go, how to do. It dawned on me, it was last year. I am in my early 40s, just to give the age bracket. So, I'm still quite young. Amen. Hallelujah. Even though these gray hairs, dude, I don't know like where these came from. It's like COVID happened and, everybody was going through that season with the beard. And when I took the mask off, I was like, yo, like, what is this, yo? And so when I finally took the mask off and everybody started seeing me, they were like, okay, everybody was like, it looks good. Anyway. But I realized last year that my life has a pattern. I looked at my resume. I looked at some of the movements that I've made. I looked at the decision making and how I did it. And I saw the pattern. I said, oh my goodness, around February, March of every year, I go through major change of some type or nature. Now, I'm in my early 40s, like I said. Many of you may not be there. But look at your life, your decision making, understand patterns. All of those jobs you quit, why did you quit all of those jobs? What's the pattern? You keep saying it's the people, but you still keep quitting the job. Maybe it's you. So maybe that's not the nugget you want to take, because that requires you to be honest with yourself. But the honest thing is, it could be you. Understand patterns. When you understand patterns, you're honest with yourself, you're able to make changes, you're able to make the right decisions. You don't want to be around the wrong crowd, then don't be around the wrong crowd. Don't make it hard. But Roger and them, that's my bud, that's my family. They can still be your best bud, they can still be your family. But you want to be at a certain place. I'm not telling you to kick people to the curb, but understand patterns. If I want to be a millionaire, I need to be around people who have the same mentality. Yep. Some of my friends are not millionaires. And I do know some people who are millionaires. They're not my friends. I'm working on it. But the reality is that I'm learning from them. What's their pattern? You want to be more like God? Okay, understand God. You you want to have a better relationship with him? Understand more about him.
Yeah.
Understand your patterns, and then make your moves that uh, go with the positive things that happen in your life, not the negative. The negative things, you understand those patterns too, so that way you can refrain from following those patterns. But you understand your good patterns, so that way you can continue to do the things that bring you wealth, happiness, and peace.
I'm not touching that one because I'm leaving it right there because that's nothing else to say. The pattern, because there's good patterns, bad patterns. You need to figure out which one you want, because if you're following the way of the bad pattern,
That's right.
that's why things aren't going the way you need them to. It might be time to start making new good patterns or new habit stacking, however you want to put it. But I'm not touching that one because, man, that was a nugget. You've been dropping nuggets all night, and I must say, I gotta say on behalf of everybody that's tuned in, everybody that's listening, we have to say thank you for those nuggets because you got us all peaked. Our interest is peaked. It's time to write our story, and that's only possible because of you. So I'm here to give you your flowers and tell you thank you on behalf
Thank
of
you.
everybody.
You're welcome.
For
Not a
dropping that
problem.
information, man. Now, again, don't get it wrong. I'm gonna get all the information in the description. Again, thank you. VAR, don't go nowhere with. I want to talk to you right after the show, so stick with me, brother. But again, thank you for everything. We appreciate you. I'm gonna have you back on because we're gonna have to do this. But again, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. This has been excellent. Thank you.
No problem. But until then, VAR, I'll see you on the other side, brother. Man, I hope y'all got those nuggets because I know me, I'm finna start writing down some new things. I got to start some new habit stacking because there are some dots, some things that I want to correct in my life to get it going to the next level. And I also need to take a look and identify where my problems may be. Maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's the crowd, maybe I need a new network of friends. I have no idea. All I know is I'm gonna go back and watch this over again to get those nuggets that VAR has dropped. If you got something out of this, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share with others, because there's one thing about it. Each one has to teach one. So pass this information on to others because it just shouldn't be you trying to live a life of purpose. You want to help bring the next person up to live a life of purpose. And the only way you can do that is to live in your purpose, with purpose, on purpose. Thank you for tuning in. I can't wait to see y'all next week, next Thursday, same time, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Thank y'all for tuning in. I love y'all. See y'all next week.
I'm back.
Every time I walk out that door, every time I interact with anybody new, my purpose is to help change.
It's time to celebrate life. If you know that you're in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know you want better for your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you have what it takes to be in charge of your life, it's time to stand up. If you know that you are not just trying to be good for you, but for those around you, it's time to stand up. As a matter of fact, look to the person to your left and tell them you are enough.
I want to help you change, and just like you change, every time I interact with somebody, they help me change. It's no different than if I met an individual and they had 4 quarters and they needed change, or if I had $1 and they had 4 quarters, I need to change. We can swap the money. The value is still the same. They still got $1, I still got $1, but we both exchanged something, and it was a change for both of us. So every time I walk out that door, I inspire to help change lives just as much as lives have changed me.
Y'all been listening to the wrong people, watching the wrong things all your life, and it's time to put to rest all those negative thoughts because you are enough. It's time to put to rest that self-doubt because you are enough. It is time to get rid of that negative energy because you are enough. It is time to stop listening to people that don't have the best interests of you in your life because you are enough. So let's have a moment of silence. I want everybody to understand that you are the person that's in charge of your life. Everything that you have inside of you to be who you're supposed to be in life. You have a destiny, and that destiny can only be accomplished through you, by you, and only you with the help of God. When you realize that you are the person you are, because you're not a carbon copy, there's only one you. They try to put you in a box. Society tries to put you in a box, but you can't be in a box. How can you be in a box when there's only one you? But then they tell you, think outside the box. What I'm trying to get you to understand is there is no box.
I want to pass on the things that I have to the generations behind me. By the time it's time for me to get called home and go to the grave, I want to be empty. I believe in bankrupting the cemetery, so I can't take this knowledge with me because the cemetery is already full of brilliant ideas and unwritten books and innovative ideas. I can't take this with me, so I'm trying to leave it all here as Billy Graham Jr. to the next generation so somebody else can carry it on.